Alright, this time we have Chandelure, which is the 8th most used Pokemon in a doubles metagame with a very respectable usage of 18.82% in December of 2021. Alright, so what makes Chandelure good? Well, the main reason is diversity. Because Chandelure can be played in so many different ways, its usage is going to be incredible. So it's played both as a Trick Room sweeper and also as a way to prevent Trick Room in fast kinds of teams. So when we are talking about Chandelure in a Trick Room team, it is actually like a great Pokemon against like mirror matches, like against opposing Trick Rooms. For example, if you play Trick Room against other Trick Room, they have stuff like Ridiculous or Hariyama, sometimes even a Bulma Snow. So Chandelure actually has a very good matchup against like opponents' Trick Room teams as well. So it's like a Trick Room user that beats other Trick Room users. Kind of like, in a weird way, outspeeds them and pressurizes them immediately. But in a Tailwind team, it is a Pokemon that can imprison Trick Room, and because it's a Ghost type, it cannot be faked out. So it's a very reliable imprison user to make sure that the opponent cannot use Trick Room when it's on the field. And it's Chandelure just has overall strong stats, and it's one of the rare answers to Steel types. In general, like the doubles metagame has like a couple of very strong Steel types, like Metagross and Scizor, which like in general do not have like lots of counters. So Chandelure is one of the better ones to keep these mons in check as well. Then what challenges Chandelure faces? Well, it does have overall a bit of a hostile metagame. Rain is very popular, and it's usually just taken down by rain teams very easily. Then it has issues against Sand Cores, the Excadrill, Tyranitar. Especially against Tyranitar, Chandelure is almost almost useless. Tyranitar resists most of its stabs, and it's gonna take Chandelure down easily. So Tyranitar, the popularity of Tyranitar is extremely big problem for Chandelure. And despite Chandelure has like actually a very good defensive typing in many ways, there's still like many doubles Pokemon carry some kind of a super effective move on it. Like Earthquake and Rock Slide are very popular coverage moves in doubles. So Chandelure always has to be kind of scared very often when it's switched in. Then rather than usually I would talk about like the moves and the EVs and the natures and so on in general. In this case, I will just explain all the main Chandelure sets, how they differ, because you can't really talk about the items or the sets or the moves without like connecting to the whole big picture. So I'll just explain like what I think are the main three sets for Chandelure, depending on what kind of teams they're played. So this is the anti-Trick Room fast Chandelure. It's played either timid or modest. It's just max speed, max special attack, just a sweeper with focus sash. And the point is to have two stabs, heat wave, and shadow ball as the offensive options. But then you have imprison and Trick Room, which is basically made sure that opponent cannot use Trick Room when Chandelure is on the field. So it's basically used as a lead when like you're facing like a very hard when you're facing like a hard Trick Room team that they're trying to immediately force Trick Room. Imprison Trick Room is actually arguably the most reliable way to prevent Trick Room from going up. So like, for example, if you sometimes people use Taunt, but that could be played around with Mental Herb. So Imprison Trick Room cannot be like in a sense played around with any other way than actually killing the imprisoned user. So that makes it a very good anti-trick room lead, which is used it was used like in this Crobat Mienshao hyper aggressive tailwind teams to basically as a mean to prevent opponent from getting trick room up. So it's a very viable option there to improve like Trick Room matchups in general, as well as just being a great sweeper. But yeah, at the same note, you can use Chandelure in a Trick Room team. So then you would just play quiet, so max special attack, min speed, where you would maximize your basically your HP and special attack, and just have the lowest speed possible. And then most commonly it has focus sash to kind of like enforce to have the highest possible chance to enforce Trick Room. But you can also use Ghost Gem and Fire Gem if your team has a reliable way of setting up Trick Room. And then the set is just simply Heatwave, Shadow Ball, Protect, and Trick Room. And yeah, it's a Trick Room setter, like a very reliable one because it can't be faked out, and it also is a very threatening sweeper in Trick Room as well. And then lastly, like a middle ground from these two is the middle speed Tail Room Chandelure. Basically, in a team that has both Tailwind option and a Trick Room option available, like kind of like a pseudo Sun team, especially good with Whimsicott, which where you can Tailwind or you can have something to set up Trick Room. So this one is actually modest with max HP, max special attack, 4 speed. So it actually hits the 101 speed stat with this specific spread. So in Tailwind, it's gonna outspeed everything. But if it's gonna go in Trick Room, then it's gonna underspeed, a lot of things. So that's like the great middle ground. It's usually gonna use Focus Sash just to do what it wants to do. And yeah, so it has the same set as the anti-Trick Room set with Heatwave, Shadow Ball, Imprison, Trick Room, but it basically can decide if it wants to go for Trick Room or if it wants to prevent a Trick Room. So for example, against hard Trick Room teams, it can decide to okay, you're not getting Trick Room up, but if Chandelure is facing like a very fast and aggressive team, he can just decide, okay, I'm just gonna set up my own Trick Room. So it's a very diverse and it very good way to like adapt to multiple kinds of teams. Then about team synergy, well, it fits lots of kind of teams in a way. Like it can be a part of Trick Room team, it can be a part of Tailwind team. It just has to be adapted accordingly. And the main counter for Chandelure is basically Tyranitar. So making sure that because Tyranitar is so difficult mon for Chandelure, that you have other mons that can make use of it. So I would say Hitmontop is like one of the most common partners, the most reasonable partners, as well as Mienshao, like Crobat and Mienshao, which Mienshao pressurizing Tyranitar as well. So having the Tyranitar matchup handled is very crucial, as well as rain matchups, but I'll get to that in a bit. So yeah, the counterplay for Chandelure mostly is just Tyranitar in general, and then water types, especially rain team. So in against rain teams, Chandelure has a very difficult time to pretty much do anything. But just making sure the rest of your team has a reasonable matchup against rain is the good way to make sure that Chandelure doesn't like the Chandelure isn't one of the many mons that gets just swept by rain. So having other mons to kind of have a positive rain matchup is very useful. But yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.